Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little bit different today.
Yeah, quite a bit different from our usual fare.
Right.
Right. It's a fascinating look at a very enclosed world.
We're focusing on a single residence in Windsor.
Yeah.
Specifically the Royal Lodge and the very specific, very private world of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew. It's an article titled Andrew Mountbatten Windsor Unfiltered. And it was written by Nigel Pemberton Cross.
And I have to say, the access he got is just startling.
It really is. He spent weeks interviewing 8 current and former staff members from the Royal Lodge. And honestly, interviewing might be too soft a word.
It sounds more like a debriefing, doesn't it?
Yeah, like he was debriefing survivors of some very strange psychological experiment. They all requested anonymity, obviously, to avoid any repercussions.
Which makes sense. And I want to set the expectation right out of the gate here for you listening.
Good idea.
This isn't a gossip session. We aren't here to rehash old scandals or talk about the same headlines you've seen 1,000 times in the tabloid.
Right, we're moving past that.
This article is something entirely different. It's essentially a case study on extreme micromanagement and the psychology of power.
It's about what happens when a figure with a lot of time, a massive staff, and a severely diminished public role decides to construct what the author calls a parallel civilization.
We're talking about a residence where nothing, absolutely nothing is left to chance. It's this sealed ecosystem.
Imagine this scenario for a second. You've just landed a prestigious new job.
Right.
I mean, the location is incredibly historic. We're talking about a huge 30-room estate. So you walk in on day one. Maybe you're a little nervous, you know.
Naturally.
You're eager to please, and you are expecting the usual first day onboarding stuff. A friendly tour of the grounds, a quick chat about payroll.
Maybe someone shows you where the coffee machine is.
Right. Which mug is yours, that sort of thing.
But instead, you are walked into a quiet room, you sit down, and you are handed a manual. You're handed a black, 4-inch thick, laminated lever arch folder.
Yes. A physical object that staff refer to as the binder in what Pemberton Cross describes as hushed and slightly hollow tones.
That specific detail really stuck out to me. The hollow tones.
Yeah.
It implies this deep resignation. The article actually mentions that the staff live in constant fear of what they call laminated consequences.
Laminated consequences.
Just let that phrase sink in for a moment. It suggests a bureaucracy that is both utterly ridiculous and completely permanent.
It really does. It sounds like a dystopian novel where the main villain is just a mid-level bureaucrat.
Exactly.
And to understand just how deep this rabbit hole goes, we have to start with something that seems totally mundane on the surface, but is treated with military precision inside the lodge. Most people just look for socks that match their trousers. Andrew looks for socks that perfectly match a standardized industrial color reproduction system.
This is really the entry point into the entire system.
Yeah.
If you can understand the socks, you can start to understand the kingdom.
So according to the source, for at least 11 years, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has worn a different colored sock for every single day of the week.
The article describes a laminated Pantone color reference card hanging on a brass hook near the dressing room. The source material notes that the staff responsible for laying out the clothes have to cross-reference this card every single morning.
There is absolutely no ambiguity permitted.
None. And it has a formal title.
I love this title.
The Chromatic Weekly Directive.
It sounds like a Robert Ludlum spy novel, The Chromatic Weekly Directive.
It does. And the schedule is totally rigid. Let's run through it quickly so you can picture the week.
Okay, let's do it.
Monday is red, Tuesday is blue, Wednesday is yellow.
So standard primary colors so far.
Right. Then moving into the second half of the week, Thursday is purple, Friday is pink, Saturday is magenta, and Sunday is burnt ochre.
Burnt ochre, not orange, burnt ochre.
Precision is the absolute key here. The author notes that the distinction between magenta and cerise is treated with the gravity of a diplomatic incident.
It's so interesting because it creates this incredibly high-stakes environment over incredibly low-stakes items.
Yes.
It forces the staff to be constantly vigilant about things that literally do not matter to anyone else on Earth.
Right. Which leads us to the absolute pivot point of this entire article, the incident the staff referred to in hushed tones as the night of the orange socks. So let's set the scene for you listening.
There is a formal dinner scheduled for that evening at the lodge. 15 people. The guest list is this weird mix of people who are apparently still willing to be seen with him.
Right. There's a retired admiral, a property developer from Cheshire, and some minor European nobility.
A butler who had been there for 15 years. He made a mistake on a Sunday.
He laid out orange socks.
Right, instead of burnt ochre.
And to the untrained eye, orange is obviously close to burnt ochre. But in this house, they were definitely not burnt ochre.
No.
The article says the difference was measurable under good light, and Andrew noticed immediately.
Now, in a normal household, even a really strict one, you'd say, hey, wrong socks, and you just grab another pair.
Or maybe you just wear the orange socks because who cares?
The punishment was, I honestly struggle to even wrap my head around it.
It's wild. He orders him to serve the entire formal dinner naked.
Fully nude, except for white serving gloves.
Yes.
It's perfectly acceptable for the butler to be completely naked in front of 15 guests, but God forbid his bare thumb touches the rim of a soup bowl.
It's the kind of thing that sounds like an urban legend, doesn't it? Like something you'd hear in a pub and just dismiss entirely. But the article is very specific about this. It cites 2 separate former employees who tell the exact same story in near identical terms. He served fish, the main course, and cheese in the nude, save for the gloves.
Picture this dinner party. You are that retired admiral. You're sitting there maybe expecting a nice quiet evening, a little chat about the Navy. And suddenly, in walks this man, wearing absolutely nothing but white gloves, serving the Dauphinoise potatoes.
What did the guests do? Absolute complete denial.
The retired admiral just calmly asked for more potatoes. The property developer stared into the middle distance, attempting to basically astral project out of the dining room.
And the European nobility just kept eating, completely unfazed.
It's the emperor's new clothes, but the emperor is fully dressed in a tuxedo and the staff is naked.
Well, apparently the guests were told it was a continental custom.
A continental custom.
Yes.
That is a masterful bit of improvisation, or gaslighting, depending on how you look at it.
It's absolute gaslighting. But what strikes me most isn't just the sheer humiliation of the butler, who, by the way, resigned the very next morning, which is completely understandable.
Of course he did. And the article notes he now has a profound aversion to the color orange.
I don't blame the guy. I'd probably have a panic attack in the produce aisle. But it's how Andrew recorded the event. He keeps a leather-bound household journal. And after this incident, he didn't write, punish the butler, or had a crazy evening. He wrote an entry under the heading Standards Maintained.
That implies that the humiliation wasn't just some random outburst of anger.
Right.
It was a necessary systemic correction.
Exactly. If the rules of the parallel kingdom are broken, the ruler has to assert control. It's a way of proving that his reality is the one that actually matters.
Because if he lets the orange socks slide, the whole illusion might just crumble.
Precisely. This moves us from the dressing room right into the bedroom. And again, we see this absolute obsession with verifiable precision.
It's not enough for things to look right.
No, they have to be mathematically right.
So the rule is that the pillows on the bed must be stacked to an incline of exactly 11.3 degrees.
Not 11, not 12, 11.3.
I don't even know how you measure 0.3 of a degree with a pillow.
You don't, but the angle man does.
The angle man.
The article describes a retired naval surveyor, a man in his mid-70s, who is hired to come to the Royal Lodge every single autumn.
And he brings his own gear, right?
He brings his own surveying equipment, theodolites, lasers, the works.
To certify the pillows.
He produces a written report. He formally assesses and certifies the pillow configuration.
That is amazing.
A former housemaid is quoted in the piece saying he takes about 40 minutes to do it.
I mean, why does he need 11.3 degrees? Does he sleep better?
I really don't think it's about sleep.
No.
I think it's about the fact that he can demand 11.3 degrees and the world has to bend to provide it. It reinforces the idea that nothing in this house is arbitrary. Even the fluffiness of a pillow is subject to naval grade standards. And it's not just the pillows, it's the shoes. The protocols state that all shoes in the wardrobe must point in the precise geographic direction of Balmoral Castle, about 530 miles north.
Wow.
And this isn't just a rough estimate like, oh, face them generally north. Staff have to use a specific brass compass.
Kept in a velvet-lined case.
Kept in a velvet-lined case to verify the orientation of the toes every single day.
I love the detail where the reporter asks a source about the actual difficulty of maintaining that alignment over 530 miles.
Yeah.
You know, considering the curvature of the Earth, magnetic deviation, the fact that it's a closet. And the source just looked at the reporter and said, yes.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It really does.
They've stopped asking why. They just do it. That yes is the sound of total surrender to the logic of the lodge.
Complete surrender.
It connects back to what we said earlier about the parallel kingdom. In the real world, shoes just sit on a shelf. But in this kingdom, the shoes are spiritually aligned with the seat of the monarchy.
It's almost like he's trying to channel the power of the crown straight through his loafers.
It's a ritual. Rituals are about creating order out of chaos.
And his world outside the lodge is chaotic.
Highly chaotic and completely out of his control.
So he controls the shoes.
Okay, so we've got the socks, the pillows, the shoes. These are all very domestic, internal things.
Right.
But what about the outside world? Because even in a parallel kingdom, the real world has to intrude sometimes.
Well, the real world is allowed in, but only on Andrew's terms. This is where we get into what the article calls the newspaper protocols.
This part made me laugh, I have to admit, but it's also incredibly stressful if you think about having to do it at 6 a.m.
It's all about the crossword puzzle.
It is. The rule is that the daily newspaper must be folded so that the crossword puzzle is visible on the outermost face before it is presented to him.
Which sounds simple enough if the crossword is on the back page.
Sure, but what if it's buried in a weekend supplement or deep in the middle of a broadsheet?
Right.
The source describes the folding required as approaching the condition of origami. Staff actually practice this in the evenings. They have practice runs with yesterday's papers to make sure they can reveal the crossword without destroying the structural integrity of today's paper.
And if they get it wrong, say they crease a clue or something.
It's not just considered a mistake. It is formally designated, and this is a direct quote from an internal memo, as editorial sabotage.
Editorial sabotage. That is so dramatic. It sounds like a charge from a spy thriller.
He literally claims it is an assault on the sovereign right of the reader. He writes notes on headed paper to the staff, accusing them of this. It frames a bad fold, not as clumsiness, but as a literal conspiracy against him.
It's that exact same theme again. He is the victim of incompetence, and he must defend his rights.
Always defending the borders of his control.
Okay, let's move to the kitchen.
The golden brown spectrum card?
Yes. It's another laminated card kept right by the toaster. It lists 6 approved shades of toast.
Ranging from pale harvest at the very lightest to deep Windsor amber at the darkest.
Deep Windsor amber. It sounds like a very expensive craft beer.
It really does.
Yeah.
But here is the kicker. Anything darker than deep Windsor amber is rejected. And not just thrown away in the bin, it is formally logged in the kitchen journal. And the equipment turnover, because of this, is incredibly high. They went through 4 toasters in 18 months because they just weren't consistent enough for the chart.
4 toasters?
Eventually, they found a specific German model that met the rigorous standard.
We absolutely have to talk about the biscuit rota. So most normal people choose a snack based on what they feel like eating. Andrew has completely outsourced this decision to the weather.
Right. He uses a laminated chart that cross-references the daily precipitation with the appropriate biscuit.
Run us through this matrix.
Okay, so if the weather is classified as light cloud, the kitchen serves digestives.
Sensible enough. A dry biscuit for a slightly dreary day.
If it's rain, they serve shortbread. A bit more substance, a bit of comfort.
Okay, following the logic so far.
If it is heavy rain, they bring out the heavy artillery, the chocolate hobnobs.
But what if the sun comes out?
That's the catch. If there is sunshine, there are absolutely no biscuits.
None at all.
None. Andrew apparently finds the very concept of eating biscuits in the sunshine to be, quote, faintly ridiculous.
Faintly ridiculous. But forcing your butler to serve dinner completely naked is just fine.
The logic is entirely internal. It doesn't map to the outside world. He's building a reality based strictly on his own aesthetics. But the rigid enforcement of this biscuit rota led to another one of those totally Alice in Wonderland moments for the staff. A junior housemaid made a critical error one afternoon. She served a chocolate hobnob during a period of moderate drizzle.
Now, to any layperson, a drizzle is rain.
Not to Andrew. Under his meteorological system, moderate drizzle is classified as upper tier light cloud. Therefore, it does not qualify for the chocolate hobnob. It is strictly a digestive weather pattern.
So she served the wrong biscuit. And her punishment wasn't nudity, thankfully, but it was arguably even stranger.
She was made to write a formal letter of apology.
To Andrew.
No, to the biscuit.
She had to write a letter to the literal chocolate hobnob.
The source confirms they saw this letter sitting on the desk. She had to apologize to the hobnob for, quote, deploying it under false meteorological pretenses.
That is, I struggle to even find the words for that. It's infantilizing, but it's also deeply disturbing.
It is.
We can't finish this deep dive without talking about the softest, cuddliest, and yet somehow most intensely bureaucratic part of the entire household. The stuffed animals. Now, I knew about the teddy bears from previous reports, but this new article adds so much more detail.
It really does. The collection is formally titled The Commonwealth of Plush.
And it has a strict hierarchy.
It's ranked loosely by Commonwealth nations. And the top bearer, the absolute head of the collection, is named Admiral Biscuit. He holds the senior position. He essentially acts as the viceroy of the bedspread. And the staff, I mean, this is just wild. The staff have to pass a test on this hierarchy. A multiple choice test.
You've got to be kidding me.
You have to know who outranks whom in the bear collection to work there. Does the Canadian moose outrank the Australian koala? You need to know this.
And what happens if, heaven forbid, two bears are touching when they shouldn't be?
That triggers a diplomatic incident protocol. The source says it has happened twice, and both incidents were fully logged. A formal protocol exists for when two stuffed animals are found touching without prior authorization.
It's taking the pure innocence of childhood toys and wrapping them in the coldest possible bureaucracy.
It really is a stark contrast.
But okay, let's step back for a second. We've laughed about the socks and the toast and Admiral Biscuit. But as we wrap up our analysis of this source material, what does this all actually mean? Why does a grown man, a former working royal, live like this?
That is the core question Pemberton Cross poses at the end of the article. It's really easy to look at this as just comedy, but if you connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually a deeply poignant portrait of loss.
Loss of power.
Exactly. This is a man who has lost his public standing, his official duties, his influence. The real world has definitively rejected him in many ways.
Right.
He is no longer a central player on the world stage. So what does he do? He retreats.
He builds a world where he is still the absolute monarch.
Yes, the parallel kingdom.
Right.
In the Royal Lodge, he decides what color the day is.
Right.
He decides where north is, or at least that the shoes must respect it. He decides what constitutes editorial sabotage.
The laminated cards, the brass, compass, the logbooks.
Those are the tools of his governance. They are the apparatus of control in the only jurisdiction he has left.
So the micromanagement isn't just about being fussy or particular. It's about existential validation.
Yeah, I think so. Every time a staff member checks the angle of a pillow or folds a newspaper, just so they are affirming his authority, they're playing their assigned part in his play. If they stopped doing it, his illusion of control would completely shatter.
Because if the butler brings orange socks and nothing happens, then Andrew is just a man in a big house.
Exactly.
And the staff, they just go along with it.
They have to. As the article concludes, they've stopped asking why. They just focus on keeping the shoes pointed at Balmoral.
Because in that house, that is the only reality that actually exists.
It's a fascinating, if slightly unsettling look at how humans cope with a profound loss of control.
By gripping the tiny things they can control even tighter.
Exactly. Until they're measuring toast against a color chart.
Which really leaves you with something to think about, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, think about your own morning routine. When everything else in your life feels chaotic or out of your hands, do you ever find yourself obsessing over the perfect cup of coffee? Or the exact way your desk is organized?
We all have our little rituals.
Right. It makes you wonder if we all have a tiny parallel kingdom of our own. Are we all just one bad decade away from buying a velvet-lined compass?
It certainly makes you look at your own habits a bit differently. Though I sincerely hope neither of us ever starts logging our laundry mistakes as textile sabotage.
I'll try to avoid it. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the bizarre reality of the Royal Lodge. A huge thank you to Nigel Pemberton Cross for that incredible reporting in his original article.
Really stellar journalism.
And thank you to you listening for joining us on this tour of the Parallel Kingdom.
It's been quite a trip.
We'll be back next time with another stack of sources to unpack. Until then, keep your socks in order and watch out for laminated consequences. See you next time.